Loneliness is one of those feelings that we all experience at some point or other. Whether you're a kid and you just don't have that many friends to play with, or you're a full-fledged adult and all your friends have pretty much moved away. We will all feel loneliness at some point in our lives. An example of this is me. I'm an only child. And not only that, but I was an only child that lived in an area pretty much in the middle of nowhere. Like 40 minutes by foot from the town square, middle of nowhere. So I just had to find ways to entertain myself. And luckily I had many toys to play with, such as Legos, and video games such as Minecraft. And that's not to say that I was completely alone. I mean, when my parents were at work, my grandparents would watch over me, but there's only so much you can get out of your grandparents at a very young age. Sure, they could tell you stories and play games with you, but you really crave companionship from people your age. Another lucky thing for me was that I had friends in school that actually played games online. So one of the ways my generation bonded was through video games and talking online with Skype, TeamSpeak, or now Discord, and we would just have fun playing games like that. And while that might seem good and all, there's a fundamental issue with being online and talking to your friends online. And that fundamental issue is that you're just not present in the same way that you would be if you were in person. And it might not seem problematic at first, but if you're exclusively getting your social interaction from online conversations, you will most likely still feel lonely. Because you're still in the room talking to someone that could be anywhere from 1 mile to thousands of miles away. So I'm looking for horses, and this guy looks pretty cool. And I have saddles and horse armor. If you're wondering how I got that stuff, check out my latest video with Flow State. Let's see. This one doesn't have a lot of health, though. How about this one? This one has stupid amounts of health. So this is going to be my horse for now. And my next task is to grab a leash so I can have horses for my friends. So as I was saying, having your social interactions only be online, you'll probably still feel lonely. And that's a problem that Gen Z and Alpha Gen and everything probably after us is going to face from now on. Because I think we've lost touch in the sense that we don't know how to socialize and not be lonely. We've taught ourselves and been taught through these devices that we've been using for our entire lives at this point. Phones, computers, anything that has a screen on it, as a matter of fact, that social interaction can happen here. We've replaced every other kind of social interaction. And while that might not be the case entirely for everyone, I think we can all agree that any developed country that has access to these tools and gadgets is facing the same problem. In other words, you're not alone. I need to find a leash or a lead. Okay, my horse is running away. There we go. We are all having this problem right now. I promise you I'm having this problem as much as you. And this is all sort of going back to the Chronically Online video I made. Go check that out in the card above. But I'm always online, right? I'm always on the computer doing work or socializing, which makes it so that I don't leave my room and therefore don't get any actual real life practice on talking to people face to face. So as an entire generation, how do we combat this? I think the answer is limiting your use of social media. And honestly, anything that could be considered a messaging service or a service where you somehow communicate to other people globally. And as much as many of you will probably say, and I will agree with, that these apps and computers are all great tools for making the world go round right now, we need to limit ourselves. Everything is good up until a certain point. Cake is great until you eat too much of it and then you want to throw up. Or sitting in the sun is great for vitamin D, but if you sit in the sun too long, you get burned. And the same is true with social media and computers. They're great tools to advance our civilization and do things, but if we sit on them too long, we lose our human touch, physically and emotionally. So if you can deal with having, let's say, 3 hours of screen time a day, that's not, obviously, we're talking about screen time that you use for leisure, not for work and stuff like that. Other than work, if you can limit your screen time to, let's say if you're doing it for 5 hours a day, you go down to 4, or if you're at 4, do 3, or whatever it is for you personally. I know for me right now, if I look at my screen time app, actually, let me look at that. In most cases, I'm below the 2-hour mark, except on certain days, depending on what I'm doing. But, so if I go on my phone screen time, I'm at like 2.5 hours per day on average. However, I also sit on my computer all day. So then that just makes it go into stupidly long 12-hour days of just being on the computer, which is just not healthy, and I'm aware of it. But what I'm doing to combat this is now I'm starting to limit myself as to what I can use on my computer and on my phone. For example, the only social media that I use right now is Instagram. I don't use Snapchat, I don't use Twitter, I don't even have TikTok installed. And honestly, if I wasn't a content creator, I probably wouldn't have anything besides Discord and maybe like Facebook Messenger. In any case, I try to limit my social media use these days because it just is it's not necessary. And by doing that, what I accomplish is that I seek more actual human interaction outside of these screens, because it's too easy when you're just in front of a screen. You kind of fall into what happened during COVID where, oh, we're all isolated, but we're forced to be isolated, so it's fine. Oh, great. My horse is... Yeah, this is not a thing to be doing while you're yapping. So now that we're not forced to be inside, just go outside and go talk to people. And of course, it's not that easy. But the fact of the matter is that the only real way to combat this loneliness is by doing so. By going outside, by talking to people. By kicking yourself in the head and saying, look, dude, if you want to not feel this way, you need to go out. You just have to. For me, I'm at a point in my life that if I could just not be on my computer, I would be. Straight up, if I could avoid going on a computer for 95% of the time, I would do it. But I can't because my job requires me to be on a computer at least 8 hours a day. But what that causes me to do is that I have to limit my other computer usage and other screen usage and go outside. Because the truth is, it does get lonely. It does get lonely when you're sitting on Discord and talking to people because you want to be near these people. You want to have actual experiences with these people. You want to be able to say, hey, remember that time when we XYZ? Remember that time when we went skydiving? Remember that time when we were at that cafe and so did this funny thing? You don't have that on the internet. Sure, you have the, oh, remember this funny moment when we showed each other a meme? Or remember when we hit this kill feed in Counter-Strike? Like, yeah, it's the same thing, but it's really not. And I can't explain it to you if you don't understand it at that level. I just can't. But I think most of us understand that there's a major difference. So just know that you're not alone. And if you do feel that you're lonely and you don't have any interaction and you just can't take it anymore, you gotta just kick yourself in the ass and say enough is enough and go to a bar. Go to a bar and just sit there. You don't have to even talk to anybody. And if you're someone that's younger, right, go to a cafe, go to a pep rally at school, go to anything that will allow you to be around people. And maybe you don't have to talk to these people. Maybe you could just sit there and watch them. You could just people watch. Even that activity, by default, would probably make you less lonely. And if you do it enough times and you sit and watch these people, you know, you keep going to this same event that happens every week, let's say. Let's say every weekend there is a Saturday night bowling event that a bunch of kids from your school go to. And maybe you just play with them. You don't really have to talk to them. Bro, the fuck away from my horse. Let me make some fences so this poor bastard doesn't die. So back to the Saturday night bowling event. That kind of eliminates the social anxiety of it. If you're doing like a sport or something, or you go to a chess table in a park, you don't really even have to talk to the people that you're dealing with. You're kind of just sitting there playing a game. That's one of the beauties of games and gaming especially. When we're playing a game with strangers online, most times we're just playing the game with them. And maybe we'll have a couple of chats about the game in-game. But where do you think that came from? That came from arcade rooms, which before that came from playing sports. And you see how everything is socially tied into itself. So instead of playing Minecraft with your friends online, or playing Minecraft with a random person online, go to a basketball court and maybe play basketball with somebody. Or if you're older, go to a bar and maybe challenge someone at pool. There's just so many possible ways to avoid being lonely, especially if you're someone who craves that extra human interaction. You just gotta want it enough. But anyway, that's all I had for today. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Good night, and good luck.